Hi, and welcome to In the Cosm. I'm your host, Canadian speculative fiction author Kat Gordon. I've started this podcast so I can chat with authors and other creatives I simply fangirl over. I hope you enjoy diving into my microcosm and feel inspired to seek out the works of these amazing humans. Hi, I'm Kat Gordon, and today the Shakespeare geek in me is over the moon to have Canadian author Sue Taylor-Davidson as my guest. Sue is the author of the historical fiction series To Pluck a Crow, which began with book 1, The Hands Behind Shakespeare's Pen, and the latest, Death Stalks the House of Herbert. Sue's life has been full and happy with a wonderful husband and 3 great stepchildren, a large extended family, commitment to Aboriginal issues, research jobs, library work, babies, animals, and yes, we're talking cats, editing, NGOs dedicated to education and library development, lots of gardening, knitting, Shakespeare research, reading, art, and writing. Phew! Her education is diverse, ranging from health studies, theology, native studies, library science, and early childhood education. Welcome, Sue.
Oh, thank you, Kat.
And I must say, I don't think you've done enough with your life. You might want to get a hobby or something.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
It's been busy.
It's been busy, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for joining me today in my microcosm. And as I said, and as we've heard, that you have indeed, you are indeed leading a full life. And you seem to be passionate about many, many things. What are you working on right now?
With the pandemic, it's been pretty tough focusing. I find my brain is really not the same.
Yes.
And this whole year, one thing I have done a big focus on, I have an aunt who's in a senior residence, and I call her every day and we play, she's blind, so we do crosswords on the phone and I give her the clues and then I tell her how many spaces there are and she has to keep it all in her head.
That's amazing.
She's amazing. She is amazing. She is. And that's been a big focus because for a while we were like 2 hours a day on the phone because she was very lonesome and she couldn't have any visitors till about September. Wow. So that's been a big focus for me. My mom's sister, great aunt, wonderful person. Then I tried to do the research for my book 3, which is not going very well, actually, because I'm kind of stuck. I've gone through a lot of the websites that I could access from Canada, and we had planned to go over to England and Belgium to follow these trails this year. And of course, that was all cut short. That's fine. I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Right.
Yeah. And then I have the 3 Etsy shops that I run, one with my sister and the other 2 on my own. And that's been really busy during the pandemic because people are buying things online.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I will never use the word lazy to describe you. I think you should go have a lie down after this. But yeah, it's interesting you talking about, doing crosswords audibly.
Yeah.
With the way things are going now where you can't be in person and such, we're learning all different ways to be accommodating to people. So we can still feel connected. So that really resonated with me.
And she's not her hearing's going too, so you have to shout when you're talking to her. But her daughter's got her a technology that she can put these earphones on and hear better through phone and television. So there's a lot out there to help people who are having some of those kinds of difficulties.
Yes, exactly. I'm hard of hearing myself, and so I've configured my microphone in my earphones so that I could run a podcast. Because at the beginning I was saying, I'm going to run a podcast. I'm hard of hearing. Hey, let's have fun. But there are a lot of accommodations out there. So we like this.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about words because you arranged the alphabet. And you know that I read The Hands Behind Shakespeare's Pen, and I gave it this glowing review because I just couldn't get enough of it. I loved it to bits. The authorship of Shakespeare's work has often been a topic that's been explored among scholars. And how did this become an inspiration for you to write this series? And I mean, you mentioned about travel, but if you could expand also on how you've done the research for this.
Sure. Yeah, it was about 12 years ago, I read a book, no, 11 years ago, by a woman named Robin Williams, like the actor.
Oh.
She wrote a book called Sweet Swan of Avon, Did a Woman Write Shakespeare? And I was fascinated by that book. And I was convinced at the end of it that I wanted to research more and learn more. I hadn't even really much heard about the authorship question. And I wasn't a Shakespeare scholar or anything like that. But it was so intriguing that I started getting out books. I looked up Shakespeare authorship and found out that she was in this big committee. It's a trustee committee on Shakespeare authorship. They've even started a program at Brunel University on that. You can get your master's in Shakespeare authorship. So she got her master's, and it was after writing this book because she had already been doing a lot of research. She's a very, very brilliant woman. Then what happened was I thought, I got to go way back here because I don't even know what the authorship thing is about. So I started reading about other candidates. The Earl of Oxford, Philip Sidney was one, Queen Elizabeth was one. There's a whole group of them. There's about 12 that have been nominated as candidates. So I read something about everyone, but I still went back to Mary Sidney Herbert, who was her candidate. So that was how I kind of got into it, just reading and reading. And after a while, I started making notes because it was so confusing to keep all these people and the history, because I didn't know history of the time. I kept a lot of notes and I was constantly talking to my husband about it. So finally I said, okay, I'm going to just get this straight in my head. And I made sort of an outline. And my husband suggested, why don't you write a book? And I said, oh, there's no way, that woman's written the definitive book. But over a couple of years, I said, I can't write a historical fiction book. I'm not trained enough, but I can't write a true history book, but maybe I can write a fictional book bringing in some of the points. So that's how it got started.
Right.
And it was supposed to be just for my family originally. And then it got, someone suggested I go to Renaissance, that knew Nathan, and I knew Nathan then, and I was talking to Nathan, and there was so much going on. I thought, okay, I'll just fix it up as best I can. But in the meantime, my stepdaughter, Mary, is a graduate of Concordia in the literary, she's in playwriting. That's what she did for her. So she was a Shakespeare person all her life, and she was constantly walking around with books about Shakespeare, and we would have great discussions. And she was taught at Canterbury by a wonderful, wonderful professor. And he became the editor for me before I passed on my book to Renaissance.
That's
so
amazing.
His name is Mr. Fitzpatrick. They call him Mr. Fitz. And I knew him through the library where I worked because he was a patron. So one day I got up the courage and said, I want to submit something I've got to a book publisher. Would you read it? And he spent 2 months. And when I got it back, it was full of red lines all through, full, every page, about 500 red lines. He was really seriously looking at it, but he liked it. And I thought, oh, I'm a real person. What am I asking him? He loves Shakespeare. He's going to think Shakespeare is Shakespeare, but I don't think so. So this is going to be a conflict for him. But he was very open. So that's how it all got started.
That's fantastic. That's really amazing. I mean, I would never have known like all the self-doubt and struggles and such that you were experiencing. A lot of people know me as a space opera writer, but I love reading historical fiction. Like I love it to bits. And I don't know if it's because I have a little bit that cultural Irish thing where I like learning history through storytelling. And one thing I love about historical fiction is that you can talk about real things, but you create this fictitious family in the setting of something real. And does that appeal to you?
That always has. And I just, I'm Irish too. So I've got that storytelling. My friends say, you're such a storyteller. Everything you talk about, you have to tell it in a story. It's the Irish. It's the way we were brought up.
That's how we learn. My father can tell you the best story about going to the grocery store. And you're
Exactly. Yeah.
This is our people, folks. This is what we're like.
Yes.
So do you want to just say a quick, we know basically what you did for researching. Do you just want to say one or two little things about that first book, and just kind of, it's just so our readers and our listeners know what it's about?
Yes, I will. Yeah. Well, the first book is called To Pluck a Crow, The Hands Behind Shakespeare's Pen. And I just introduce Mary Sidney Herbert from the time she's a young girl within her family context. Every alternate chapter is historical fiction, and the other odd numbered chapters are in the present day, with two present day characters who are doing the same research that I did, almost following the footsteps that I did when I researched Mary. One is a librarian named Janek, and he's Polish, and he lives in Britain, in London. And the other is Sarah, who is a graduate doing her master's in Mary Sidney Herbert and her relationship with her brother Philip. Because over the years, I've kind of gotten the idea that while Philip was alive, they wrote a body of work together, and that's been documented historically. And I think some of it is his work too, that she's also put forward. The problem was it all got lost in fires, and I bring that up in my book. All of their notes, which have been annotated in other historical documents that they wrote a lot together. Mary Sidney Herbert had the Wilton Circle of Writers, where she was the only woman, surrounded by a group of the men of the times who wrote, Christopher Marlowe, the whole bunch of them. She was in the middle of that group, the only woman, which is really interesting to me, that she could hold her own. Well, she was a very strong person and very kind as well. So I think she had a way with people. So I traced her life up until, there was the little clue in this book, which I won't give away, about the papers of Mary Sidney Herbert. And it's a real historical clue, and it's real. So the papers may still be out there, but I won't tell how I got to that. It's in the book.
Right.
Mary's will has also been lost, but could be found. So that's all I can say, I guess, without giving away too much.
I really loved because I also watch a lot of period pieces as well. And I love the transfer between the modern day, the present day, and then going back. I found that you really captured that Elizabethan culture.
Oh, good.
It really was good. So I'm just telling you, if you have any self-doubt lingering, it was so masterfully done. I was very impressed with that.
Thank you very much. And I want to do a shout out here to Robin Williams, because I've met her since.
Oh.
In all these years. I met her online. She has a Shakespeare reading series, and you can go on Saturday mornings and read with her and a group of people. They take a play and they go through it line by line and they discuss it. So I've learned a lot from that group.
That's fantastic. I would definitely be checking that out. So that was the first book. Now I just started reading the second book, and I have to say I'm so grateful that you put a kind of last time we saw these people, this is what happened.
Oh, yes.
Without being too spoilery again, now what is Death Stalks the House of Herbert about?
Well, it's about the part of Mary Sidney Herbert's married life, because I took her up to she was married in the first book. I took her to that, but then there's a whole history of deaths that happen in her family, one after the other within a period of 2 years, and that's true. So I had to go through that, and it was really difficult because my own mom died during that time.
Oh dear.
And so mom had been at the first book launch, and then the second book I'm writing about death. And I couldn't do it. I had to put it away. And then the summer after my mom died, she died in July. It was not till about September that I was able to pick up the pen and start going through it. And I kept telling my friends, and Nathan was one, I kept saying, I can't do this. I can't write about this. I can't do this book. And I'm stuck. I can't do any books now because I'm in the middle of it. But they all talked me through it, and they told me it's going to be therapeutic. You do it, you think about it. And Mr. Fitz also helped me a lot with that. Yeah. Like, he helped me to tell me if it rang true. And one of my friends at work, who is a really good reader, like really reads everything, she also said, her name is Bridget, she also went through the book, and she would say, you know, I actually cried at that part. So I knew that I was getting authentic, because my temptation was to escape, not think about it. I didn't want to be authentic at that point. And I just could do a couple of lines a day some days, and I had to put it away. It was just too many memories, too many questions. Yeah. And that, though, helped in the end, because the book had, I think there were 6 deaths in it altogether, and she had to go through them all in a really short period of time. Her own life was like that. Wow. And so for me, that was like, I don't know how she did it. Her strength of character. She did take 2 years completely out of society, like a recluse at her home in Wilton House. Yeah. No one saw her. The Queen didn't bug her, which often they were in their faces, because these were the lords and ladies of the time. Yeah. They just let her be, and she just was angry, and she was walking and talking, and she got really sick. She had a lot of illness at that time and had to be treated. So that's sort of the focus of the second book, Death Stalks the House of Herbert, because she's Mary Sidney Herbert. Yes. She loses all her significant others except her children. Wow. And she's sort of left with this, and she's young because she was young and she married at 15. Yes, yes. So it all happened. She's not an older woman at that point, and she's on her own, and she's dealing then with all the properties that her husband owned through being a lord. So that was really, and then the other part of it was like comic relief on the other side in the present day, because this character came into my head named Crick. And I just loved him. I don't know. He just got me through it. He got me through it. He was quirky. He was like a steampunk version from a blast from the past. He was, I don't know. He was just a real interesting person. And as I began to meet him in my head, I thought I really like this guy. And so I had the relief of doing the odd numbered chapters with him in it, because he was a character and he joked, and he reminded me of my cousins from Pembroke. They live in Petawawa. They're up there. And my cousins, I modeled him a lot, I think, after one of my cousins who's really, really fun and quirky. And if Brad's ever going to listen to this, he'll probably just laugh. He'll sit back and laugh and say, yeah, I got to read about this, because he'll see himself, you know?
You know, that's so funny. You know, for legal reasons, all characters are fictitious and coincidental.
That's right. Well, that's right.
No, I mean, you know, you said so much just now. There's so many things to unpack. You know, creativity during grief. Yeah. You know, I went through something similar, and it's, you know, even now I'm not going through grief, but I'm nurturing myself through depression. And one of the things I'm doing is this podcast, because I thought, you're an extrovert, you need to connect. You don't feel like doing it, do it anyway. And there's this interesting notion between giving ourselves a little push and then knowing when to sit back. And it's that balance. And I feel that really applies to what you were saying when it comes to grief as well. You know, some days you can only write a few lines. And, you know, even in the disability realm, we say, celebrate all those wins. You wrote 50 words, celebrate it as a win. You didn't write today, celebrate that as a win. You know, it's all about the balance of self-care. When I wrote my first book, I was disabled, alone, and frightened. And then I wrote this disabled character who wasn't frightened. She knew something was happening to her, but she was going to strap on her tall red roller boots and go in life and do her thing. And she had this fortitude, and she nurtured me, this fictitious character, which I'm wondering if that's a side of ourselves, taking care of ourselves.
I agree. I think it is, because I think in Crick, I see, like, we all have a good sense of humor in my family origin, and we do in this family that I'm in now too.
Right.
But my father was the funniest person. He was hilarious. Like, we got a lot of laughter. And I felt like for quite a few years of my life, not being around him as much because I wasn't living in the house. I was out on my own. I lost that sense of humor because I'm such an introvert that I had to go. I went too much inside in those days, when I was 20 and early 30s.
Yeah.
And I think that the character of Crick is almost calling to me, get that humor back, get it back, because it's a godsend, it's a lifeline. If you don't have it, you don't experience life in a balanced way, just like you said.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir. I'm a humorist, so I dig it.
You are. You're great.
Oh.
Like, I don't have that talent, but I'm trying to develop it.
I think you probably do. You know, I think sometimes, you know, like, you can be an introvert, but an introvert really just means that you get energized when you go on your own for a little while. You could really love being with people, but then you need to kind of build up your energy just by being alone, right? I know introverts that are funny as heck, right? So
good.
I really don't think it's a mutually exclusive thing. And if it came up this character, that means it's living within you anyway, right? So
thank God, yeah, I'm glad it's there, because I need the humor, and we all need the humor right now in this year.
Yeah, for sure. I like the way you're exploring grief and then also adding humor, because, again, going back to kind of the Irish way. This is the Irish show, by the way. This is all the Irish show. But it's very true in Irish storytelling that they'll have you weeping one second and then laughing the next second. So I feel it's very valid to write a story like that. Okay, so you were mentioning about Robin Williams. And I like to ask people, you know, who they read, who they follow. Are there any books or series or different things that you're interested in right now?
I love mysteries. I love mysteries, and I love Anne Cleeve's work. And I like Vera, the character, the Vera Stanhope, the one she created. I've been reading through her things and doing a lot of watching of the Vera series on TV, because it's based on her books. I like Native writers a lot. You know, Tom King, my husband and I went to he was giving a presentation at Wabano Center last year, just before the pandemic hit. In February. It was around Valentine's Day. And he did about his latest book, and it was with Sheila Rogers did the interview with him, and they were there live. So we got to see him. I loved him. I love his humor. I love his seriousness. And so, you know, lately, one of the books I was reading, I'll probably forget the name, so I wrote it down here. It was about bingo. It was called, Nobody Cries at Bingo.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I love the title.
I love the title. I just finished that one. It's about life on a reservation or a reserve, and about people's sense of humor through difficulty. So that was great.
And sorry, what was the author? What was the author of?
The author is, just one second.
Sorry, because I was laughing because I love the title so much.
Her name is Dawn Dumont, Dumont. Nobody Cries at Bingo. She's Canadian, from Manitoba.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, really, really great book. And then I love Tony Black, who is a serious mystery writer from Scotland, and he writes it like it is. He's very dark, but he's also very redemptive. So, you know, I have these people that I like that are kind of, some are more on the, you know, like for me, what I think about when I think of mystery was the whole Agatha Christie thing where she never showed a dead body for very long, eh? There was the body in the library, everybody walked around it, but they didn't talk about any gory details. But nowadays, mystery writers do. They're more forensic oriented, you know?
Yes, yeah.
So Tony Black is forensic oriented. It's not for the weak of heart, and I had to put it, like, slap it shut a few times, but he is a person that I so admire his writing. I wrote to him on his webpage and I said, I can't tell you how your writing affected me. It was so cathartic in a certain way. Yeah, he's an amazing writer.
So mystery is a big thing with you as well. I mean, you like the historical component, but you also like the mystery component.
Yeah, I like research, and mystery to me, solving a mystery, whether it be a crime or an identity, whose identity or missing persons, it's all in the detail, and research is all in the detail. For me, the most exciting part of writing is the research. I just love it. I could spend hours tracing down a little clue till the nth degree to see if I can find, or a name of a person. How did that person connect with this one? I've done that. That's why it took 10 years for me to write the first book. Wow. I couldn't write anything because I was tracing all these people and trying to figure out how they interacted and what did this clue mean and what did he mean when he said he left it here? I got to go to that place. I literally went on Google Earth, like I'm in a car, and drove to Carisbrooke Castle for my first book. That's how I did it. I've never been to Carisbrooke Castle, but I went inside the castle. You can do that. They've got an online site where you can walk around like a person in the castle. It's like, I've never been there, but nowadays you don't even have to be at the place. You can Google Earth it and drive along and get there.
That's amazing.
You can go right into the neighborhood.
You know, it's so funny because I was chatting with my own mother the other day and saying that it's so nice to be an author during the time of the internet and all these apps and stuff. Yes. I mean, you just explained it right there. You just saved yourself a lot of money on a plane ticket.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm going to go to Spa next in Belgium because the Spa in Belgium features in the third book, and I can't get there. We can't go to Belgium, so I'm going to go on the train. I mean, in my head, and I'm going to try and follow the tracks. I'm going to do the whole Google Earth thing. Right. I'm going to see what you see on the side of the roads. And I'm going to go in. I've already done it. I've gone into the Spa. It's called the Spa, the little place.
Right.
It's the name of the village. I've gone in and down the roads and looked at the buildings already. So I have a sense of what it's like there because I've never been. And that's got a feature. And I need to look at the historical buildings there in order to write about them because some of them are still standing that were there in Mary Sidney Herbert's day. And she spent 2.5 years in Belgium and around France in her later years. So that's part of this mystery in the third book.
That's fantastic on so many levels. Like, one, you could do it safely during a pandemic, but like, I'm just thinking of like people like myself that, you know, travel is hard for me physically because of my disability. Yeah. But if I just want to go and explore, that's the way I can explore. I mean, it's so true. Whenever you read tales where someone's on a train, you always see, you always know what they're looking at. And the fact that you could actually use technology, people won't know the difference. That's so amazing.
No, they won't. No, they won't. And people have filmed their train trips and put them up on YouTube. Like, you have to search a lot, but you find things when you really do that's where the research comes in. It's kind of exciting finding things.
Yeah. Yeah, you seem to be totally enjoying yourself when you do the research.
I love it.
Okay, so this is my last question, and it's my favorite. Tell us a fun fact about you.
Oh, I thought about this, and one fun fact would be that when I was a kid, I wanted to be a detective. That was one. And I also wanted to be an astronaut. Oh. I put my hand up in grade 8 and they said, what do you want to be? And I didn't want to say it because I thought everyone's going to laugh at me. And finally she says, Sue, what do you want to be when you leave here? What are you going to study? I said, I want to be an astronaut. Everyone burst out laughing, the whole place, because I was the shyest kid in the class and I barely spoke. And here I am thinking about shooting off into outer space. But, really, I wanted to be a detective. That was one of the big things. That or a sheep farmer, because I love my knitting. So I had these 3 conflicting careers in my head and didn't do any of them.
When I first went to Ireland, I saw this. I was in a cab and I saw these beautiful, like emerald green. It is true. It really is emerald green in Ireland, full of sheep. And when I called my husband, I said to him, "There's sheep here," and I'm thinking, there's nothing wrong with you for your vocation desire. You were just in the wrong country. I hope there's still a chance for you to become a space detective, because then you can be an astronaut and do your research too. Why not, right? I always say if you're younger than dead, you could do anything.
I love it. I'm going to remember that. I love that.
That's one of my ways. Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Sue.
It's all my thanks to you. Thank you.
It was fun. Folks, you can find Sue's books at pressrenaissancepress.ca. That's PRESSES, renaissancepress.ca. And you can connect with her on Instagram at Sue Taylor-Davi 1953, and visit her on Etsy at etsy.com/ca/people/graced moments. Transcripts for In the Cosm are available at catgordon.com. That's CAIT Gordon.com. Thanks for joining us. Take care and stay safe.